This edition of MacVoices is sponsored by ProXPN, the virtual private network service. Protect your internet by securing your connection and get up to 50% off by visiting proxpn.com and using the offer code VOICES. And by MacVoices Magazine, our free Flipboard magazine that brings you some of the best Mac, iPhone, and iPad productivity tips on the web. High in signal, low in noise, just like MacVoices, MacVoices Magazine includes information on how you can get more out of your Apple technology. Subscribe at macvoices.com/magazine or search for MacVoices Magazine on Flipboard. Welcome to MacVoices. This is a talk of the Mac community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, we get to talk about one of my favorite products today, or maybe some new offerings from one of my favorite products. And we get to talk to Mr. Mark Fuccio, who is now working again with Drobo. Mark, it's great to have you back.
Chuck, it's great to be back, and I'm glad I have my Drobo hat on and have some interesting news, I think, for you as well as your show listeners.
Yeah, well, now let's see. Not too long ago, you were on a Mac jury. Then you kind of snuck into the interview I did with Mihir Shah of Drobo.
Yes.
You were just kind of the guy in the background.
Yeah, I was photobombing or video bombing.
Yeah. But now it's all Mark all the time to talk about something new from Drobo. And something that Mihir hinted a little bit, but now you're here to give us the full scoop. So I'm not going to steal your thunder. I'm just going to let you run with it.
Okay, so Drobo is offering a solution to one of the most requested features it's had over the past couple of years for its network product, and that is the ability to have remote access. So, today we're introducing two pieces of functionality. The first is myDrobo, and that's sort of the infrastructure piece. And then built on top of that, there are a number of other apps that can provide remote access to data on the Drobo. And we'll be talking about one called Drobo Access.
Okay, so I just heard remote access, and I heard the word app. So I'm gathering that means that we're not just talking about Mac support, but also iOS support.
Yes, we are, as well as Android. So the way to think about this is for either the Drobo 5N or its bigger brother, the Drobo 810n, the 8-bay unit. It has capability that you can install specialized Drobo apps that will extend or help customize its functionality. So there's sort of the main app is called myDrobo, and what that will allow you to do is that you can register and create a dedicated subdomain for your Drobo, like mark.mydrobo.com or chuck.mydrobo.com, and it will handle a lot of the network infrastructure behind that. So once you set that up, you can be anywhere in the world on a mobile device or on a computer. You could type that in, and then you can start to get access to different apps on your Drobo. The key thing about myDrobo, as an enabler or foundational app, is it does a couple of things. The first is any of the data that's transferred using it is encrypted and secure end to end. And this is a real innovation of this product because, as I said at the opening, a lot of people have requested remote access capabilities for Drobo. And the company has been toying around with different ideas, and until recently, and some of the changes in some of the infrastructure for getting SSL certificates, which is basically the crypto keys that allow people to encrypt data and make sure it's secure end to end. There haven't been really any good solutions out there. They've fallen down in different ways, either to insecurity or complexity, or a variety of other things. So, as you know, really what Drobo is all about, it's taking high-end enterprise technology that makes for very cool and useful products, for individuals and small businesses, namely, sort of environments that don't have IT support. The company's done that again with the suite of remote access products and tools.
Okay, so I've set up plenty of cloud devices or tried to. Some are easier than others. Some work a little bit better than others. Sometimes you just abandon the whole idea because it's just too much trouble. For better or worse, I think most of us have kind of come to think of Dropbox as sort of a standard, if not a formal standard, at least in the way things work. So is the having access to myDrobo remotely, is it a little bit more like a file server, or is it a little bit more like Dropbox?
That's a good question. So there are two parts. So let me take the first one, which was you're touching on just sort of complexity of setup. And the company has, for these two models of Drobo, a set of Drobo apps. And these are supported applications that are supported either by Drobo or by the company that makes them. And if you go in the Drobo dashboard, there's a tab for enabling Drobo apps, and that will turn on and enable your device to install them. And then in the Drobo apps menu, there's a whole long list of apps, and these are things like Plex, if you want to use it for media sharing, either within your home or now you can do it remotely. Things like WordPress. There's a variety of there's CrashPlan and Elephant Drive for solutions for backing up into the cloud. There's all sorts of other development tools, and quite a lot of stuff out there. So these install basically with one click. You install it, and after it's installed, some apps you may need to click again, because it needs a little bit of information for setup. So that's how the myDrobo app works. Is it will look to see what other data sharing apps you already have installed. So maybe the very first thing you do is after you install myDrobo, you install Drobo Access. And with this, it will ask you to go in and create and register a name. So there you can make it like markf.mydrobo.com or marksfiles.mydrobo.com. And that will create an endpoint that you can enter that in a browser in the next room of your home or halfway around the world, and it will give you access to get data on it. And this leads into your second question, which is the sharing paradigm. And this is much more Dropbox-like. You'll see in a web browser, you'll see a list of files and folders. And if it's yours, it's something you can click and you can download it. So you can get that very important presentation that you stupidly left at home before jumping on the airplane. Or you can share things with other people. And sharing, you can send them a link. If you want, there's a couple security controls. You could make it password protected so that you're sharing something with your accountant because it's tax season. And instead of, most accountants seem to use the last 4 digits of your social security number, which is terribly insecure. And you could use, you'd make as long a, arbitrary, complex, secure password as you want, and then send that to him in text or drop it off to him, so you separate his receiving the password from getting the link, and that way you get, high degree of security. You could also set a time limit to expire it under the theory that, hey, if this person hasn't downloaded it and let me pick an arbitrary number, 3 days, then, they've blown the deadline, and if they don't get it by then, there's no reason for them to have it, so that the link will expire. So this is very much like a Dropbox experience. Unlike parts of Dropbox, is here you can set things up for, you give read-only privileges, and maybe this is great. You want to share pictures with people and make sure that, if you're sharing it with, parents or, you're maybe not computer literate siblings, that they can't accidentally erase something. Or you can give them read and write access. So maybe you're elaborating on talking points or show notes with somebody. Similarly, you could create a folder and you can enable it that people could drag files into that folder on their browser, and they would automatically be uploaded back to the Drobo. And then they're available for your sharing as well as anybody else that you've invited into the group.
A lot of questions here I want to make sure we touch on. So let's see. Over this shoulder, I've got a 5N.
Yes. And
I've got a reasonable amount of information already on that 5N. Is there anything special I have to do to start sharing that 5N? And what I mean by that is I'm not going to endanger the data that's already on there by installing this app and turning it on.
No, what this is it's an app that's layered functionality on top of your Drobo. So, in your environment there, you'll continue to have full access to it. This adds a dimension that, say if you're going to, the Midwest Mac event, there's summer barbecue. If there's, some old photos or something you want to show people, you would be able to get remote access to them. And you can set it up, which folder you want to share or not share. And as owner and controller of it, you have rights to see everything, on the Drobo device.
Okay, and that was going to be my next thing. So I am looking. Turn it on. I'm looking at the entire, not somebody else but me. I'm looking at the entire folder structure on my 5N.
Yes.
Okay, but I'm not taking up any space on the hard drive on, say, my MacBook or iPhone or iPad or whatever. So it's just sitting there waiting for me. If I want it, I can download it.
That's right.
But I don't have to.
That's right. That's why we're calling it Drobo Access instead of something else, because this is there's other products out there that have sort of the syncing model, and it'll sync to from the device to your Mac to your another Mac to an iPhone. This provides remote access capabilities.
Now, earlier on, you said that I have to go in and set up access. This isn't a situation though where I have to involve Drobo in the transaction at all, is it? Other than buying it, of course.
That's right. Other than buying it or already owning it, you just go in online. You download the Drobo app and install it, and when you hit the configure, you can put in MacVoices.mydrobo.com, and then that would be your URL, and you'd have access to it.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. I mean, this sounds like a bit of a sophisticated. That's not right. I want to say file server, and it's just not a file server. It's a whole different way of looking at things because of the sharing capabilities and all of that. Right.
I mean, there's one dimension to this, and that's automating and setting up a lot of the network plumbing. Getting it's a known endpoint that has a known name, which is a precondition for being able to get an SSL certificate. It will automatically get an SSL certificate that's 2K bytes long. So that provides very strong encryption. It sets up intermediate so-called certificate authority, so that other people it has a private key that it uses to encrypt your data when it's sent. So when it leaves your Drobo to go into the internet and the cloud, the data is encrypted. And on the receiving side, that client gets the so-called public key, and only the public key will decode what your private key had created. So this is how we're leveraging and building on top of existing technology, but we've automated a lot of the setup of this. I know I personally, for another project called Picture, I've had to set up buying and installing SSL certificates. And it's something that I feel like there's three emotional spaces that you're in. One is you're uncertain, because what am I doing? Is this going to work? Am I going to have a service outage or go call other people, or am I wasting money on getting the particular type of certificate I'm getting? The other is complexity. Just setting up some of the requests. They ask for a CSR, a certificate signing request. Some of the stuff in there are just not really obvious questions of how you should answer it. And then finally, it's okay, you get this thing, and one time it's one file, another time it was 3 different files that had to be concatenated together and then installed in a certain place on your web server. And it's a sort of thing, if you're not doing it all the time, it's just rusty. You're just you're not really confident. So Drobo has automated all of that entire process. So that's that's set up and just done automatically. Then the other thing is just managing where is that mark.mydrobo.com system located. It's automating some of the DNS and dynamic DNS systems, so that if there's a power outage and the systems reboot, and where I am, if AT&T gives the house a new public IP address, this will get updated so that we're not disconnected. businesses have been doing stuff like this for a long time. Individuals really don't get static IPs because the telcos want to charge extra for the privilege of getting that.
Before I forget it, do those certificates have to be renewed, or is it a one-time thing? And or is it automatic that it gets renewed? How does that work?
Drobo will renew them automatically.
Okay.
I believe the update frequency is 90 days.
Okay. So once I set it up and I go to Europe for 6 months, I don't have to worry about it. I'm going to be able to connect regardless of when.
That's right. As I said, this is the instance of Drobotizing it. Is all these other pieces could have been done, but they're all manual, which means they don't get done. We've automated the system to make this a secure foundation upon which to build.
Yeah, security, for obvious reasons, is so high on everyone's mind right now. No matter what you're doing, all of a sudden you're looking over your shoulder. And so I like the idea of my data being able to sit right here on my 5N, but me being able to have access to it anywhere I want. It's only going to be restricted by my bandwidth or, and the file size.
Bandwidth, file size, and you're in total control of with whom you elect to share data or not. And when they get it, there's all sorts of ways you can control access. And for people, if they want to dive into some of the advanced configuration capabilities, they can set it up so they can get email alerts for when somebody downloaded a file, etc. So it's sort of, think of it, it's sort of like the tip of an arrow. The base level functionality is easy to set up and use, and also like most of your listeners would feel comfortable with. Like a lot of Apple products, there's a lot of richness under the surface as you develop more skills and more expertise. That provides incredible power for people who want to develop more skills.
This edition of MacVoices is sponsored by ProXPN, the virtual private network service. Protect your internet by securing your connection, and get up to 50% off by visiting ProXPN.com and using the offer code VOICES. Security and privacy issues have been dominating the news in the last few weeks. Lots of discussions, both theoretical and practical, about who's entitled to see your data, under what circumstances they can see it, and even something as basic as, do you have a right to privacy? I'm not going to get into that here, or at least not from the law enforcement or legal angles. That's for judges and lawyers to hash out with input from the citizens. What I do know is that you want as much privacy and security as you can get when surfing the web, and that's why you need ProXPN. The bad guys are getting more and more sophisticated in trying to steal your information and your identity. You can usually feel pretty comfortable at home, but when you're out and about, either sipping coffee at the neighborhood cafe or sipping coffee at a cafe 2 continents to the right, you don't want to let all that information go unprotected. With ProXPN, you have 2048-bit encryption key and 512-bit encryption tunnel security to keep your bank transactions, your health information, and even your love letters safe from prying eyes and prying computers. With ProXPN, you can surf anywhere in the world and appear to be coming from pretty much anywhere else in the world. You may be sitting in rural America, but you can appear to be surfing in from London, or New York, or Hong Kong. That can make a big difference in who might be monitoring your activities, and even affect what services you have access to. ProXPN is so serious about privacy and security that they don't retain their logs, so there's nothing for anyone to get. They even accept Bitcoin in payment if you're among those looking for ultimate anonymity. You can try ProXPN for free right now by visiting ProXPN.com and signing up. Once you're sure that their service is right for you as you use your Mac, iPhone, or iPad away from home, use the offer code VOICES to get a year of their premium service for 50% off. That means for the next year, you can travel your city, state, or the world, connecting to Wi-Fi hotspots wherever you find them, secure in the knowledge that whatever you're doing, only you know about it. That's ProXPN.com and the code VOICES to get 50% off safety and security in your web surfing for a year. Don't wait, do it right now. Thanks to ProXPN for their support of MacVoices. This, I'm not surprised that Drobo would make it this easy. That's sort of what Drobo does. We've had this discussion numerous times. Probably people to this show are tired of me saying it, but the whole idea behind Drobo is to give me these tools, have them be able to be set up simply. Your example about some of the other stuff earlier was perfect. I've done it probably a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, so I knew how to do it then. But if I didn't make my notes or whatever, and sometimes the procedures change, and then you got to go back and do the research again, and it's so much nicer to have someone who sets it up so that I can click once and bang, everything is right there to renew the certificates regularly. I mean, that's Drobo.
I think it goes back to I think the comment Mahir made at the end of the show. About Drobo's mission, which is really to think about is to preserve simplicity. We all need very sophisticated devices, but we want them to be simple and easy to use. We don't want to have to wade through 20-step setup instructions because it's just not going to happen. It's going to be intimidating and daunting. So let me tell you about some of the other things that you do built on top of myDrobo. So that is the foundation to provide remote access to the device. And there are other apps that, if you install them and use them on your home network, you could share it there. But they allow you to span space and access them anywhere you have an internet connection. One example, if you want to share photos, maybe with your family, instead of just dumping everything in a folder, there's a public photo gallery web-based called Koken. That's one of the Drobo apps, and that will allow you to create galleries of, you can make it, your Easter 2016 photos or, holidays or other special events, and you can share them with your friends and family. Very, very simple, very, very easy. And you can send them, just, the information so that they can get in and they can take a look at it. Other things, the Plex app that people use to share media around their homes. With this remotely, you could just start to share Plex right away. You don't need to buy their annual membership, although that gives all sorts of other programmatic benefits in addition, I believe, to remote access. That with this, you could have it marksplex.mydrobo.com. And you could watch video stored on your Drobo when you're on the road, or if you get stuck you miss an airplane connection, and you need something to watch for entertainment. Similarly, if you wanted to set up a private WordPress blog that maybe you want to share with business colleagues or with your family, that could be set up as well. So, the myDrobo provides the secure way that people can get access to this, and that's sort of really doing all the heavy work of securely moving your data from your Drobo device to wherever you are. We should pick up again, that most of us will natively work with a web browser. You just type in the right URL. There are also apps for iOS and Android that provide sort of a dedicated amplified experience.
Okay. So I want to make sure we go back and say this. This is all free.
Okay, so the apps that you install on the Drobo are free. Getting access on your Drobo is free. The apps for Android or iOS cost a whopping 99 cents.
Ah, okay. Well, I guess I'll just have to skip lunch tomorrow.
I guess you will.
And the Drobos this support, I want to be real clear on this, because this is not all Drobos. These are the network-attached Drobos, the 5N and the, 810N?
810N.
810N. Yes. So those are the network-attached storage devices. And so you have to have one of those in order to take advantage of this.
That's right. That's right. Because, the others, connect, via USB or FireWire, or iSCSI, depending on some of the models. They basically serve data point to point to a single computer. The 5N or the 810N, they have a multi-core processor inside. One core does all the Drobo data management stuff, and the other cores are running Linux. That's why it's able to share data, or they can run other apps that get installed in it.
you said that, of course, the iOS apps and the Android apps are going to be in their respective stores. If I'm sitting here with a Mac desktop, how do I go about turning this on?
So initially, you would install and use Drobo Dashboard. You go into the tab for Drobo apps. You would install myDrobo, install Drobo Access, install some of the other apps if you want, like Plex or WordPress, etc. Then on those tabs, then you would go in and you would register for an endpoint name, chuck.mydrobo.com. And when you do that, you'll get a notice saying everything is set, and you can go and it will give you information for a URL because we share URL and specific data port, and this goes to security, and we can talk about that more if you would like. But that's the key in order to be able to get access to the system. For Drobo Access, you'll be presented, first to set it up with a username and password. That will give you administrative, account control, as well as for you ability to log in and get remote access. So, get Joe Kissel back on your show talking about the virtues of strong passwords and what makes for a strong password. Because, as much as Drobo's trying to automate this, it all depends on password hygiene. And if you just pick a bad one, I'm told that the best password is 1234. And if people use that, they're guaranteed that their data is not going to stay private. So they should pick password that has more digits and characters, and it's just harder to guess.
Yeah, if you use 1234, you don't have to worry about the FBI. You need to worry about the kindergarten class, because they'll have access to your data. Yeah. That's great. So everything is handled through the dashboard. I mean, so the app, of course, on the phone is obvious. And so once I have that URL, I just save that in my bookmarks folder or wherever, and I'm golden. Wow. That's right. And truth be told, the Android app is in the Android store today. The iOS app has been submitted and is reviewed by the powers that be at Cupertino. So we're taping this in advance of the launch, and keep your fingers crossed everything gets approved on launch date. And if it doesn't, it'll be there shortly. Yes. And Cupertino's had one or two other things on their mind. So. Oh, you think? So this is fantastic. I suddenly have a private cloud device, a really, really big private cloud device sitting on my desk, and all I have to do is turn it on. I love it. Right. Exactly true. I love it. So we send folks to drobo.com to learn more about this. And of course, if you have a Drobo already, especially a network attached Drobo, you've already got the Drobo dashboard software. So you may have a really big private cloud sitting right on your desk right now. You just have to turn it on too. Right. If you already have a Drobo, make sure you update to the latest version of the dashboard. You can open the dashboard that you have now and do a check, and it will tell you for the latest or greatest. And if you don't, click to download and install, and then you're ready to rock and roll. Great, Mark. Thanks for telling us about it. This is exciting, and especially the fact that you don't have to pay 99 cents. Okay, big deal. So basically, you're not paying anything for this. It's just one more example of the value of Drobo. I absolutely love it. Right, and I would also point out that if you can't spare the 99 cents, on your device, you would enter in that URL, and you can navigate to a folder and then click and download it, and then then it'll open up in the right app. I bit my tongue because I was about to say, if you can't afford the 99 cents, call me. But no, don't do that. Don't do that. No, I'm not going to start sending gift cards out for $1. Not going to happen. So we'll get you back on the Mac jury and back to have some of your wisdom contributed to the panel. But I really appreciate you being here with your Drobo shirt on, or your Drobo hat on, or whatever, and telling us all about it. And again, drobo.com. Yep. Very good. It's been a fun discussion. Yep, it's good to see you. Thank you very much, Chuck. Have a good night. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices. I'm going to go update my Drobo, so I will have my private cloud. I hope you will be doing the same. And if not, then that just means you got to go and look for a new Drobo, so you can. Until the next time, and as always,
I have a point. So
Oh,
for any of your listeners, if they're interested in getting a new Drobo, I have a coupon code that will save them $100. It's Mark, MARK 100, MARK 100. It will save you $100 on any Drobo of your choice at drobostore.com.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so and I want to make sure we heard that right. That's any Drobo, whether it's the network attached that we've been talking about or any of the others.
Correct.
Good deal. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so Mark just gave you another reason to go get a new Drobo. Come to think of it, I think he just gave me another reason to go get a new Drobo. I'm Chuck Joyner. We'll be back with more soon. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for links, show notes, to subscribe, to connect with Chuck on Twitter, Google+, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and the MacVoices blog. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter, the MacVoices Dispatch, to stay up to date on all the latest MacVoices news from our front page or at macvoices.com/newsletter. Do more with your Apple tech by subscribing to the free MacVoices magazine on Flipboard by visiting macvoices.com/magazine. Advertising and sponsorships handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.